Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Legend of Spyro series review. When we last left off, our reviewer had just experienced a new beginning, and he didn't really like it because it wasn't very good. But nevertheless, even though his journey was just starting, an eternal night fell on the Spyro franchise, which explains why this game is so fucking dark. And in this new chapter, it is time for the destiny to be fulfilled, as the Legend of Spyro series is completed. And I have a sneaking suspicion that it's not going to end well for our hero. Not him, the other guy. It'll all make perfect sense very shortly. Let's cut the crap. It's time to take a look at The Legend of Spyro: The Eternal Night. This game was released merely a year after the first, which is fine if the previous game didn't require some much needed love and attention, but that is not the case. The game was so obviously rushed out, and you can tell that just by looking at the back of the box. It's almost identical to the first game. This basically means that the extra cool features in A New Beginning are the same cool new features in Eternal Night, which means they didn't add anything new at all and rushed the game out. What reasoning was behind this? Did they even look at the numbers the first game brought in? It's not like there was an actual audience here begging for a new Legends game. It starts off with the ending to the previous game, except for the fact that even David Spade wouldn't waste his time with this, being switched out for Billy West. So now Sparks sounds like Fry from Futurama, which is really distracting honestly. The script was clearly written for Mr. Spade, but performed by Fry makes the comedic relief character seem like more of an asshole than anything else.
Whoa, calm down, big fella. Gosh, you're awfully tense. Haven't been sleeping much? You should listen to Voltaire tell one of his stories. That'll put anyone to sleep.
The story this time is that after Cinder awoke the baboon bastard Gaul, she didn't feel like she belonged with the other dragons. She leaves and Spyro goes after her while constantly blacking out into these tutorial dreams that are as fucking boring as ever. While we have the same abilities, they have been changed up a bit for the better, but they also work in some bullshit excuse about Spyro forgetting how to use them just to make us learn them all over again. We can also slow down time similar to Jak 3, but much like Jak 3, I only found myself using it when the game wanted me to, meaning that it wasn't implemented well. And oh boy, the foreshadowing. The game plays exactly like the first one, monotonous button mashing, and you win. We have the same baboons from before, dogs that have the same body structure so they're the same enemies, and various other abominations. They're no easier to kill, even with the adjusted breath abilities, and while I actually found myself using all of them this time instead of just sticking with fire and earth like before, it's not much better in terms of gameplay. It also feels much harder. Whenever you died before, you wouldn't lose any progress, but here, dying results in any fight you are in restarting. This, while frustrating at first, especially on the bosses, is a good thing in my opinion. There is some level of challenge and the game is better for that. While some of these minor improvements do help the game, it's still the same game as before, which means it's not very good or fun to play. While the previous game was a linear symphony of running past as many enemies as possible, this game is exactly that. In fact, I'd say it's even worse here than before. Even though we only visit 5 different environments such as another swamp and another icy citadel, some of these levels go on for far too long. 2 of the 6 levels take place in a pirate theme with these dog enemies. The first section starts off as a battle gauntlet and turns into a regular level with a boss at the end. The second section consists of traversing a heap of pirate ships doing nothing but destroying enemies in a seemingly never-ending barrage of bullshit, only to fight the same boss again. I mean, come on, can you tell how shit this is just by looking at it? It's a fucking joke. And I know what everyone's thinking. All of these reviews are just you finding tiny things to get mad about. I don't like this video. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Special Snowflake. I'm sorry that some games are just so moronically lifeless and uninspiring that it's hard for me to gather any constructive criticism on the subject matter. It's Shadow Legacy all over again. It really turns my brain into a gaping void of nothingness when the people who made this game don't even understand basic audio design. Just listen to this.
Where are we? Can you get us out?
You are on Scab's ship. The Blackbeard been made to compete in the arena fights like the other prisoners. But you am prisoner here, as are many of my kinsmen.
Jesus, what is that quality? Drop the music volume, raise the voices up, and actually attempt to have any fucking idea of knowing what your job is. I know that I'm no stranger to terrible audio quality, just look at my old reviews. But fuck me, this game isn't much better. We learn in a cutscene later on that Spyro has allies working to help him save the world. He receives this information in a letter from someone known as Hunter from Avalar. I said last time that these games have very little relation to the previous games and most likely exist in an alternate timeline. But with the inclusion of Hunter from Avalar, even just as a plot point that would lead into Dawn of the Dragon, I'm sorry to say, but these games are officially canon and exist within the same universe as the classic Spyro games we all love and hate. And I don't feel good saying that. Overall, the only thing I can really say about this game is that it's just as bad as the previous game. There is nothing drastically worse, but nothing has really improved either. The only thing I did enjoy was the story, much like the first game. In fact, after traversing the final level, which gave me Nam flashbacks of a new beginning, we get to face Gaul, Mr. Big Bad Baboon, and the leader of these armies. Yes, I know I said he was the main Dark Master last time. I hadn't played this one yet, so stop yelling at me. This boss fight is brilliant. Okay, bit of an exaggeration there, but I honestly really enjoyed it. The rest of the boss fights in this game either take place in really cramped environments, or you're limited to only moving left and right while you fire projectiles. But here, the story coincides with the boss. The first phase sees you avoiding extremely heavy attacks and timing your returns down to the wire. I actually found myself counting out loud to keep track, which is something not many games do unfortunately, as it's a true sign in my opinion that I'm immersed in the game. While part 1 of this battle sees Spyro without any breath abilities, the second phase introduces us to Dark Spyro. I'd just like to say that I'm sure this is a rip-off of several things, but I don't know what they are. This is an ability that would replace the devastation moves in Dawn of the Dragon, and here we are at the end of the second game in a trilogy, finally being shown that the people who made these games actually had a long-term plan. I'm gobsmacked, genuinely. We destroy Gaul, freeing Cinder from his captivity once again. However, his fortress collapses around our heroes, after Spyro encases them in a glowing crystal. End scene, look at the people responsible for these disasters and get a glimpse of the next game to follow, Dawn of the Dragon. I really can't fault this, it's superb storytelling, albeit a little over the top and most likely ripped off from somewhere, but it's still amazing. I actually felt invested for the first time while playing through these games. Which is scary because I'm actually starting to like this. What the fuck is wrong with me? I'm just so conflicted though. If I could score this game on the final hour or two of gameplay, it'd get a much better score, but I can't do that. I have to look at the entire thing, which honestly is the same game I talked about last time, which means that The Legend of Spyro the Eternal Night gets 4 out of 10. It really is a shame. Again, like I said last time, these games have so much potential to be brilliant, but they were fucked over by being rushed out year after year. As the day grew old along with the ancestors, our noble reviewer was not quite finished with the Legend of Spyro series. With one final game and one final chapter left, Square-Eyed Jack would require some cooperation to continue. The third and final Legend of Spyro game was released no more than a year after Eternal Night. While the previous 2 games in the series were developed by Chrome Studios, known primarily for the Tie series, Don't Fucking Start, this game was developed by a French studio, known primarily for Spyro, Dawn of the Dragon. What sets this game apart from the trilogy and even every other Spyro game is that it features a cooperative story. After 3 years of being encased in stone, some random goblin creatures find Spyro and Cinder.
Get close to me, now!
And they're dead. These goblins bind them together with snake magic for some reason, and then leave, never to be heard from again. Storytelling! So, with the backstory out of the way, now all we need is some idiot willing to play through this with me. Whoa! Oh, it's Alec!
What's going on?
Do you want to play a game?
Yeah, dude, what do you want to play? Ratchet and Clank?
Get that the fuck out of here, we're playing this shit!
What is that?
It's Spyro! Dawn of the Dragon!
Actually,
Sit down. So, the first thing you notice about playing two-player is that you
can't see fucking shit!
Okay, Mr. Reviewer, calm down. Trying to play this game with another person really is a pain in the ass. For starters, it's hard to keep track of which character you're playing as. If only Cinder was any other colour that wasn't purple and the screen wasn't so bright that it melts my eyes. It can get really confusing when there is a lot going on.
The other problem is trying to navigate the levels. Because both characters need to stay together, you find yourself struggling for control over who is leading. And don't get me started on trying to platform and fly over shit.
The back of the box claims take flight at any time, which would be great if our heroes weren't so heavy and could actually get off the fucking ground. We meet up with Sparks, who has a new voice actor, Wayne Brady this time, but the ridiculous thing is that they even acknowledge it.
You okay?
You know, a little stiff. Voice keeps changing, but I'm good.
It's like they're proud none of their voice actors were willing to return for the next game. We also get to meet Hunter finally. Although, I wish we didn't have to. He looks fine, I guess. My problem is that he's just generic looking, which really becomes apparent when the rest of his tribe looks exactly like him, proving my point. So, Dawn of the Dragon is yet again a platforming beat-em-up. However, while the other games feel like Titans without the Titans, this game is just God of War. While certain things throughout the trilogy resemble those games, here we also have a much larger abundance of button mashing and quick time events, treasure chests to be opened, and not to forget, the never-ending lackluster combat.
There is just no technique to this, and it makes it boring to play. But if there's one thing they did get right, it's the fact that Spyro and Cinder play differently.
Yes, we start the game with all of our breath abilities that can be upgraded over time. Spyro has the same elements as the previous games, just with different attacks, while Cinder has a totally individual set of moves, the most effective being the poison, which racks up serious hit points.
Working together to kill all of the enemies builds up your Fury meter, which when activated allows both characters to go into dark mode for a short period of time. Fucking die, cunt!
So on paper, this game should be really fun to play through, but as we mentioned earlier, the limited visibility and wonky cooperative gameplay really ruined it for us. But Alec, tell us about the levels.
What level?
The meadow level.
Oh! Once we escape the opening temple and meet up with Hunter's tribe, we're required to find one of their friends out in the level. We searched this place all over and found more secret areas than we did anything related to progressing through the game. We just flew around fucking about until we eventually looked up a walkthrough that told us where to find him. But even after that, he still tells us to go all the way back to the other side of the map and find a raft to rescue him.
The stupid pussy needs a raft to get downstream. We need weights to drop the raft, which are locked up, so we need to find the key. After nailing this wall running section first try, we find this creepy monk who still doesn't give us the key.
But it's okay, because Sparks stole it anyway. Because he's black.
So now we have to go back to the weights, open the door, place the weights on the buttons, try to figure out how to move the raft and drag the fucking thing half a mile back, just because this guy can't walk 5 minutes up the river. Are you gonna talk about the part with the cannons, the burning building and the giant rock monster?
I think I'm done, man. I'll catch you later.
Fine then, leave, I don't care. I'm sick of dragging your worthless corpse around anyway. Honestly, I preferred playing this game single player. You have the ability to switch characters, which made a lot of the platforming puzzles much easier to figure out. I'd argue that it actually works better. So now that the dead weight has gone, we can get back into it. I know I keep saying it, but the story over all 3 games is honestly the only reason to play them in my opinion. But why would you bother when you can just look it up on YouTube? Which I had to do anyway because there is something wrong with my disc.
Before Malifor, dragons were quite revered.
So, let's have a quick recap over the entire story. Spyro is a dragon, Cinder resurrects Gaul, Gaul works for the Dark Master Malifor, Spyro destroys Gaul, Hunter saves Spyro and Cinder, they go to war against attacking forces, Malifor awakens this thing, we stop this thing by destroying a dam, fuck that thing up and go on to face Malifor. As epic and cool as all of that is, this game feels a lot more distant from the plot of A New Beginning and Eternal Night. I can't figure out why. Maybe it has something to do with Spyro looking like a sock puppet, or it might be more to do with the fact that it feels more uninspired than usual. It could also have something to do with this game feeling like a God of War clone. I'm not even kidding when I say that. Everything down to the music reminds me of it. The soundtrack is absolutely stellar in this game, all 3 in fact. Because I'm still listening to the same music from the first game. Yes, it suits the darker tone of the story, but 3 games? You couldn't come up with any new music, guys? Can't say I'm surprised, and this game still retains the same audio issues I talked about previously. Such a shame. Sometime into this game, we meet back up with the Dragon Elders from New Beginning. It only just occurred to me that these guys were barely in Eternal Night, only for the first level. Well, they're back here because they're all important characters apparently. To get through a large fire, Ignitus sacrifices himself to allow Spyro and Cinder through. It's as anticlimactic as I made it out to be. The 2 dragons continue forth through this fire gauntlet until they reach a floating city gauntlet. There are a lot of never-ending gauntlets in these games, and floating levels now that I think about it. They have some weird fetish with levels suspended in the sky. Although it could be worse. There could be a level in space called Ignite My Uranus. So, here we are at the final boss.
Ready for this? Are you ready for this?
Face to face with Malifor in what is an okay final boss. It doesn't compare to Gaul from Eternal Night, but it's fine I guess. Button mash until it dies, the end. Yeah, cheers for that. Malifor just won't die, so Spyro sacrifices himself for the greater good. It's actually some beautiful storytelling until they ruin it and show that he is alive somewhere, about to get it on with Cinder. My final thoughts on this game and the trilogy as a whole are really mixed honestly. I found all 3 games to be as lifeless and mediocre as each other, while the story at points is absolutely masterful and I'm glad I got to experience it. But all of the downsides, the bland level design, boring and unsatisfying gameplay, constant changing for the worst and the copycatting of other, much more successful franchises really cement this trilogy as a complete fail. And even though Dawn of the Dragon felt different compared to the others in the series, it's just as lame. The Legend of Spyro Dawn of the Dragon gets 4 out of 10. A hat trick for the Legend series. Well, thank fuck that's over. I'm done with these games. Time to move on to better things. Aside from the handheld games, but until then, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share. I'm Square Eye Jack, and have a great fucking day. Thanks for watching.